guys, my name's Dan and welcome back to the Forge. In this episode of Trust Me, I'm a blacksmith. We're going to be making these super simple tongs. You don't need very many tools, they aren't very difficult to make, and if you do have an anvil, a hammer and a drill, you can pretty much make these. Quickly before we go forwards, there's a little bit of jig work that needs to be done. There's lots of ways around this and you could actually do it on the anvil. Okay, so I've got myself a piece of bright. This is like mild steel, it's basically the same stuff. It's 16mm in diameter, or 5/8. It's 500mm long, or about 19 inches and 3/4. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark 30mm from one end and then a further 40mm, and that's basically going to give us our set downs. That's 1.25 inches and then 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that up, get it in the fire, and we're going to start going through the forging process. Okay, so we're going to find our centre dots. This is our first one that's just here, like so. We're going to put that centre dot over the corner. We're going to set in and give ourselves a little fuller. You probably can't see that because of how bright the material is. We're going to find our second centre dot, which is this one here. Same thing, but the near side of the anvil. And then we're going to come over to the bick, and we're going to use, first of all, the flat side of a hammer on the bick. Like so, and then I'm going to come up to this second side here. I'm using the round side of my hammer. Like so, turn it over into the opposite side. And the reason for this is I want to push the material into the centre on this side, but on here, over this side, I want it pushed over to one side, so you can see it there. I'm going to make that look a bit tidier. Okie dokie, this fire's a bit dirty. Oh, that's hot. Right, okay. So I want to take this down to section, which means I want it to be 16mm wide. Like so, and then I'm going to repeat the same processes as before. Just getting everything looking nice and tidy. And again, this is like a lot of the videos, I've mentioned this in a lot of the videos, this is about moving material. This isn't about making super pretty forged objects straight away. It's about moving. Let me take it back down to thickness again. Just like that. Okay, so hopefully you can see that the material necks in both sides. There, comes in, necks in here, and then it sticks out one side here. Like so. Okay, back in the fire. Okay, so I'm going to create the nib now, which what I'm going to do is I'm going to face the bit that sticks out on the nib towards the anvil. I'm going to take the flat side of my hammer. I'm going to force myself down the nib. Take it through to thickness again, so I want this to be about 16mm by 8. Now I find if it's going to twist anywhere, it's going to twist now. I say that like I made hundreds of pairs of these, I've only made about 3 pairs. Other than that. Where we're at, that's our nib forged down there, and then that's our hinge plate, what will become a hinge plate. And there's a very good reason to do this like this. If you don't do it like this, you might be able to cause yourself some problems in a little bit. So you're going to go over to the jig, and I'm going to talk about the jig just quickly, and then we're going to forge this down. Okay, so here's the jig that I use in the video. It's basically a piece of flat stock welded on with a 16mm gap in between here and here, so that's 5/8 gap between here and here, and then a 16mm peg that I've just welded on. It's all welded on. It's not done special, it's just a beefy bit of angle iron. I like to use angle iron because you can get 2 jigs out of 1 bit of angle iron if you do it properly. I could probably even get another jig over this side. Now, you don't need to go as beefy as this, and it definitely doesn't need to be as mad as this. Okay, so in this jig here, I've quenched the material right back up to this double set down, and I stick this in the jig, and then kick the camera, and then give that a good bend like that. Now, the reason that you need to keep the material the way it is, I'm just going to brush it off. The reason you need to keep the material fatter up in this section, why you need to do this double set down here, is because if you don't, instead of bending here when you get it hot, it will bend up here. So yeah, and you've got to quench it off right as well. You won't get this nice tight 90 if you don't have this double set down here. Right, and get the nib hot, I'm gonna put it in the opposite way round, about there. I'm gonna bend that up now. Okay, exactly the same process again. Bend that through to 90. Cool, and if you get the heat right, I'm going to grab him just here, a bit further forward, whoops. If you get the heat right. Keep coming round. So if you don't have any welding equipment at home, I will show you how to bend up the nibs using just your anvil. It's a bit more tricky and I find it a bit fiddly. You end up messing around quite a bit. But if you're keen to make these, and these do hold material quite well. I'm quite pleased with how these have come out. So they do hold the material quite well. They work as a pair of tongs. If you are keen to try and have a go at making these, I would definitely suggest making the jig if you've got some basic welding equipment to do it. Okay, so I'm going to come up onto the edge of the anvil here, nearest side to me, just where the bic nib starts. I'm going to bring that over. It's starting to rain again. Yay. Send that all down. Oop. Okay, so that's both sides done, and what we're going to work on now is this area here. We're going to get this all nice and tidied up and start drawing that out, which is going to create the back of the rein, and then I'm going to chop them in half, stick them in the forge, draw out the reins, and then drill the holes. Okay, so flat side of the hammer. Now I don't want to go too mad here, but what I'm trying to create is an area behind where the hinge plates will be. I'm just going to try and get this. So basically I'm going to draw this out flat, but I'm going to keep it relatively meaty. I'm also going to keep it nice and round for the most part. But I'm not going to go too crazy here. So yeah, I brought this material in, so it's about it's probably about the same thickness as it is down here, but I don't want to go much more than that. I'm going to get a bit hotter. I'm going to draw a bit more out. Okay, so just going to come back a bit hotter up. I think what I'm going to do is just going to bring this down as it is now. Flip this over, do the other side, and then work out whereabouts the middle is and chop them in half. Okay, bending up without the jig. I really don't recommend this. It's a lot easier if you use a jig. Okay, so I'm going to start the bend off. I've quenched right back here so that the initially the material moves a lot further up. Basically what I'm going to do now is reheat this. I'm going to reheat this here, and I'm going to do another quench a little bit further back. Okay, I've left a bit of heat in the round section this time, and hopefully holding my hammer in a T shape, choking up on it as well, and basically just brushing down. This until you're at 90. The other thing I'm doing is I'm placing it in the fire this way round, so when it goes into the fire it concentrates most of the heat here. Okay, last heat, and just get that round as far as I can. The thing that doesn't happen doing it this way is you don't get that stretch and that upset, which creates a nice corner. It does look okay, but it's not great. I really do recommend using the jig. I think that's about the third time I said that now, but it's because honestly it's really important. I'm going to turn it back over on itself. Round side of the hammer there, flat of the anvil, and basically all I'm doing now is the same T shape, just holding the hammer like that. Not like that, like that. Until we start to get that kick up shape, and then once we're happy, what we're going to do is find the lid. Okay, I'm going to get that hot again. I'm just going to complete this, and then once it's all completed, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I messed up a little bit there, but basically what I was saying was, if you brought this, the nib over ever so slightly, you can use the rounding side of your hammer to work the material back. And as long as you keep the profile accurate, you can also, you know, just use the bick as well, but don't hold your hammer like you would normally hold it. Hold it in a T shape and use brush strokes to do the turning this way, everything. And instead of doing so much heavy forging, basically what you end up doing is brushing the material, pushing the material. But, I also mentioned I shunted this up. This material, or these measurements, are ever so slightly smaller than the measurements from before. I suggest you follow the measurements so far up until this point. But you could definitely play around with them and make these into some smaller nibs that then themselves, this area here is smaller. These would definitely come out smaller, these tongs. Okay, so this is what we got. I'm quite pleased with how they've come out so far. And they're pretty much the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put them the other way around in the fire. I'm going to start drawing out the reins. I need to tidy up some of this hinge area here, but basically that's what we're going to end up with. And also I think what we need to do as well is we need to just jog these over a little bit so they're a bit closer. But yeah, that's just about setting up now. So I'm going to draw the reins out, talk a little bit about drawing out. I'm probably going to do one under the power hammer because of time and no other reason. And then, yeah, that's everything for these really. And then drill the holes to rivet them together. So they're looking all smart, and then they're done. Cool. Okay, so there's a couple of methods to drawing out. You can use over the edge of the anvil. You could use a bick, you can just do it with a fuller, well, a cross peen. So I'm going to use your rounding hammer, and I'm just going to be drawing out over the edge on the bit here, with the round side of the hammer to start with. I'm going to get everything looking about the same. So in other words, I'm just going to draw it to thickness. Okay, I'm going to stick it back in the fire and I'm going to start drawing these down into a taper. Okay, so I want to start tapering this material, and I'm going to just take an edge from my Hardy. I'm just going to place that over the bit. So about a couple of inches. I'm just going to start bringing this material in now. I'm using the flat side of the hammer there. I should be using the round one, but okay. I'm just going to start drawing this material in, and every time I take another length off, i.e. work down the material, I'm not going to come up as high. So I initially started right up here, the second time I came down a little bit, and each time just take a little less material every time, at least for the first sort of 2 or 3 inches of material. Okay, that's cooled off quite a lot. I'm just going to straighten everything up, and then I'm just going to bring this taper in. So, cool. Okay, I'm going to get back in the fire. I'm just going to continue to draw this out. A number of ways you can draw this down. One thing I will say, if you notice there, the fact that that was hot then really does help move that material. But there's a number of ways you can make these reins longer. you could obviously get them under the press or a power hammer. You could do Smith and Striker, or alternatively, you could metal arc weld. You could MIG a set on, or stick weld a set of reins on, or you could forge weld a set of reins on. So, depending on your comfort and skill level, just this area here, just chop that straight off there, scarf them up, and weld on some 12 or 10mm rounds, and that'll give you a very quick set of tongs if you can fire weld. I personally don't like that option. It's not the best option because I'm rubbish at it. That heat number 3, was it? Okay, so they're coming along nicely. I'm just going to do one more heat on this one, and whatever we've got, and then I'm going to work on this end now, and then tidy that up and get this half finished, and then I'm going to do the other half on the Massey. Okay, so I've drilled an 8mm hole in here. I'm going to use an 8mm rivet to rivet these together because I'm going to get the maximum size rivet in there, but have as much wall either side of the rivet as possible, if that's a possibility. And then basically going to try and make sure that these look pretty even, like that, which they do. And then I hope this is going to go all the way through like it did with the Nutcracker. It will, but it moves it if it's like me. Right, I'm going to just centre dot that. Just hold that for me, Lukey boy. You're multitasking now, buddy. I'm just going to try that on there. I'm not going to do... Okay. Yeah, it wants to come towards me a little bit, but other than that, that's going to be grandioso. Lovely. Right. Okay, so I've put an 8mm screw in there and they're together. They're looking really good. I'm really pleased with these. The one thing I've got a bit of a problem with is that the gap here is a bit big, and that's probably because I've not made these before and I wasn't aware of how much I was bending these up. But they're going to work. They also already feel pretty good. They feel like they're going to hold stuff already, which is really nice. So we're going to rivet them together. I've got some 8mm mild steel here, and basically I've cut 36mm off there, but I've not cut all the way through. So I can put this in the fire, get this hot, pull it out, slide it in the hole, break it off, and then rivet it out. So that's what we're going to do now. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so this little trick works even better if you don't burn the material before you start. Oh, come on now. Just snap that off. Okay, so I've got the rivet started and everything's together, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this in the fire, get that nice and hot again, get that crowned up and looking smart. Okay, so I put the front end of the tongs into the fire, and I'm just going to just crown this rivet. Basically that means run round the edges and then just sort of get that rivet all nice and tidy in there. Yeah, they're really nice, really happy with these. So I'm just going to get these nibs to sit flush and together, and then we're going to work out what we're going to do with these reins, because they're not the greatest at the minute. Okay, so I think I'm going to get it hotter back up here and just see if I can give that a bit of a squeeze there. Maybe quench off those hinge plates, or whatever that part of the tong's called, I'm not 100% sure. And then they need adjusting up ever so slightly. Okay, I've never made these before, and they're a little bit, they could do with, well, I've made a smaller set, but they could do with a little bit of fine tuning during the forging process, but good brushing and an oil, I think these are going to be a handsome set of tongs indeed. Okay, thank you for joining me. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching me make these. I genuinely believe that these are a much simpler way of making the tongs as opposed to doing the 3 set down method. There's just a little bit of complication only because you need to be a little bit accurate with them. But after that, the bending up as well is a little bit difficult, but it's not very hard, especially if you make jigs. Super simple. And you just keep your heat controls. Just control your heat, where your heat is, what your heat's doing, and you'll be able to make yourself a lovely set of tongs just like these. Just quickly, there are 2 other ways you could do it. You could just use flat bar, but on the set down when you make the nibs, I don't think the nibs would be very big, hence why I use round bar, but you could do it with flat bar, and if you wanted to make a set of pickup tongs, you could just bring these down into a point and they would work lovely, just like that. There's also these tongs here that I've made. They're made from this is made from 12mm round. It's exactly the same process except from I haven't drawn out the reins. Now the issue I have with these is that the hinge plates are a little bit thin. They're tough enough to stand up to, you know, sort of beginnery stuff, but if someone's swinging a sledgehammer or you're going to start poking them under power hammers, I know probably a lot of you aren't going to be doing that, but if this area here gets hot, they're going to start getting flimsy and soft. Also, they're going to wear away quite quickly. So you can make it out of 12mm round or 1/2 inch round if and not draw out the reins. That would work quite nicely. So that's another an alternative. But again, like I said, a bit thinner than these. They didn't quite turn out quite as nice as those other ones. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you are a subscriber, please ring that bell for notifications because it tells you every time I make videos. I make videos as often as possible. I'm getting some real good ones out of them and I really enjoy making the content. So thank you for sticking with me. T-shirts, the new T-shirts up on the Instagram. If you're in the UK, it's free delivery. I think they're about £15 if you're in the UK. So that really supports the channel. It really supports us. Gives Ella a bit of pocket money as well because she makes these. There's all sorts of other cool stuff up on the Etsy. The raffle tickets for the Viking hammer are still available. They'll be available until the new year, I think. I said 1st of November? Yeah, 1st of November, 1st of January. Then after that, I'm going to drop those raffle tickets and then I'll tell the winners on the 8th of January on a Saturday and they're live. That's everything. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll leave them links for some other videos that you might enjoy. This is a video that YouTube thinks you might like. This is the Viking hammer video. And down here is another video that you might enjoy. And the subscribe button, remember to click that. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.